Hello, friends. Today, I want to share a new story with you. I hope you enjoy it. My name is Brendan, and I'm a widower. My beloved wife passed away too soon after a tragic car accident, leaving me to raise our two young children on my own. The first time my cousin Shelley dropped her kids off at my place without any warning, I didn't think much of it. She arrived on my doorstep, 3 children in tow, looking flustered. "Brendan, I just need to run a quick errand. Only an hour, I promise," she said, breathless. I hesitated and glanced down at my own kids, who were finishing their breakfast before school. "Shelley, you should have called first," I replied, but she was already ushering her kids inside, ruffling her youngest hair before heading for the door. "I owe you one," she called out as she disappeared. That 1 hour stretched into 3, then 4. My frustration built as the kids ran wild, turning my peaceful morning into chaos. When Shelley finally came back, she didn't seem to feel guilty at all. Traffic was insane. She shrugged as she grabbed her kids without even a proper thank you. I should have put my foot down then, but I told myself she was struggling. Being a single parent is hard, and since my wife passed away 3 years ago, I understood that struggle. So I let it slide. Then it happened again and again. Each time, Shelley became bolder. She'd drop her kids off with flimsy excuses, doctor's appointments, quick errands, and disappear for the entire day. I found myself juggling my own responsibilities while taking care of 5 children instead of just 2. By the 3rd week, it became routine. She'd show up without warning, sometimes in the middle of my work calls. "Just a quick errand," she'd say, already halfway down the driveway. Her idea of quick became laughable. A grocery run would stretch into an entire afternoon, and a doctor's appointment somehow lasted until dusk. One evening, after struggling through bath time with 5 kids, I finally confronted her. "Shelley, this has to stop. You can't just drop them off like this." "I have a job, my own kids, my own life," I said. She scoffed. "Come on, Brendan. You're home anyway. What's the big deal?" "The big deal is that you're taking advantage of me," I shot back. "If you need help, ask, but don't assume I'll always say yes." She rolled her eyes. "Wow! I thought family was supposed to help each other." That's when it hit me. Shelley didn't see my time as mine. She saw it as hers whenever she needed it. That night, as I tucked my son Lucas and my daughter Sophie into bed, I made a silent decision. This had gone too far, and something needed to change. I had just come home from work, drained after my boss spent the whole day nitpicking my report. All I wanted was a quiet evening with my kids. As I set my briefcase down, I heard the familiar knock. 3 sharp raps followed by the door handle rattling. My stomach sank. It was Shelley. With a sigh, I stood and opened the door. There she was, standing with her toddler on her hip, the other 2 already dashing past me into the house. "I need you to watch them for a bit," she said quickly, barely meeting my gaze. "Shelley, wait," I started, but she was already turning to her car. "I won't be long," she called over her shoulder, waving dismissively as she climbed into the driver's seat. A second later, she was gone. I clenched my jaw. The kids had already made themselves at home, throwing their jackets on the floor. My own children looked at me, waiting for my reaction. I exhaled sharply and shut the door. It was clear now. Shelley had decided my home was just a free daycare for her. I sat down at my computer, anger bubbling up inside me. I started reading articles about setting boundaries, and one comment stuck with me. "If you don't say no, they'll never stop taking." That night, I made up my mind. Things were going to change. I didn't sleep much, my thoughts racing. Shelley's entitled attitude, her complete disregard for my time, it gnawed at me. I needed a solution, and I needed it fast. The next morning, after dropping my kids off at school, I headed to an electronics store. I bought a smart video doorbell with motion sensors and night vision. If Shelley wanted to treat my home like a daycare, I would get proof of it. I spent my lunch break setting it up, adjusting the camera so it had a clear view of the front porch. I didn't have to wait long for the test. That evening, as I was preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. My phone buzzed with a notification. Motion detected at your front door. I opened the app, and there she was, Shelley, shifting impatiently from foot to foot. Her 3 kids stood restlessly beside her. One of them clutched a plastic grocery bag. Probably full of extra clothes, she knocked, then knocked again, harder. "Brendan, I know you're home," she shouted, leaning toward the door. "Your car's in the driveway." I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. My phone buzzed again with a text. "Why aren't you answering? I need you to watch the kids for a couple of hours." "It's not a big deal." I clenched my jaw. Not a big deal? Did she even hear herself? When I still didn't respond, she tried calling. I let it ring. 10 minutes later, she finally stomped back to her car, shouting at her kids to hurry up as they pulled away. I exhaled. My heart was pounding, but for the first time in months, I felt in control. Shelley was about to learn the hard way that this wasn't going to happen anymore. 3 days went by without a word from Shelley. No texts, no surprise drop-offs. I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she finally got the message. Then my phone rang. It was Liam, Shelley's 10-year-old son. His voice shook. "Uncle Brendan, Mom dropped us off at some lady's house. We don't know her. She left hours ago, and she's not answering her phone." I gripped the counter. "What do you mean, some lady's house? Whose house?" I don't know. Mom said she'd be right back," he sniffled. "But she's not coming back, is she?" My stomach twisted. "Put the lady on the phone," I demanded. There was a muffled shuffle, then a hesitant voice. "Hi, I'm Julie. Your sister, cousin, left her kids here. She said she'd be back in an hour, but that was this morning. I don't even know her. I can't keep them." "I'll be right there," I said, already grabbing my keys and heading for the door. When I arrived, Liam and his sisters were sitting on a worn couch, their backpacks clutched to their chests. They looked exhausted. The youngest, Ava, barely 5 years old, had streaks of dried tears on her cheeks. I crouched in front of them. "Hey, guys, you okay?" Liam nodded, though his eyes were wary. Ava just reached out and wrapped her arms around my neck. Julie, the woman who had been watching them, shook her head. She just walked out. No explanation, no emergency. She just left. I swallowed my anger. This wasn't just irresponsible. It was neglect. As I buckled the kids into my car, I made a silent vow. This had gone beyond unacceptable. It was time for real action before something worse happened. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. The kids were asleep upstairs, but I couldn't shake Liam's words. "She's not coming back, is she?" I had given Shelley every chance to change. I had set boundaries, ignored her texts, even installed a doorbell camera, and still, she had abandoned her own children with a stranger. This wasn't just selfishness. It was neglect. I took a deep breath and dialed Child Protective Services. "How can I help you?" the voice on the other end asked. I hesitated, my pulse racing. "I need to report child abandonment." I explained everything. The unannounced drop-offs, the neglect, tonight's incident. The woman on the other end responded, "You did the right thing by calling us. This isn't just a one-time mistake. It's a pattern." As I hung up, I stared at my phone, seething. Shelley was about to find out how serious I was. I answered her call. My voice was cold. "Where the hell are you?" There was a pause, then a slurred reply. "Why do you care? They're fine. They were left with a stranger, Shelley. Do you even know where your kids are right now?" Silence. "You don't, do you?" I tightened my grip on the phone. "I'm done. CPS is involved now. You don't get to use me, or them anymore." She cursed and hung up. The next morning, CPS arrived. After an interview, They placed the kids in temporary care with me. Shelley would have to prove she was capable of caring for her children again. As I tucked Ava in that night, she held my hand. "Are we going to stay here for now, sweetheart?" I smoothed her hair. "For as long as you need," she sighed. Safe at last. Over the next 3 months, Shelley worked hard to prove to the authorities that she could care for her kids. My children and I breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that our lives, our privacy, would never be violated again.